Hi guys, and welcome to another Sunday slot for teens and or anyone else. You are most welcome. Today we're going to be thinking about a parable, and it's the parable of the two sons. However, let me just first start with something which I'm sure you're really familiar with. So there's a saying that says, "I'll believe it when I see it," and I'm sure we've all said it, or even we maybe have said it, had someone say it to us even. Maybe like a parent, if you said, "Oh, I'm going to clean my room today," and your parents been like, "I'll believe it when I see it." Um, and this little quote or this little saying actually reminds us how important it is to follow through on promises. I mean, it can be easy to talk a big game or proclaim that we love the Lord. It's another thing to live out those words and do what we say. So, in this gospel lesson today, Jesus assures us that he has authority to speak with the words of God himself. He also reminds us that we can rely on him to do what he promises. Now, Jesus often disagreed with the leaders and teachers of his time. Surprise, surprise. He was a revolutionary, my friends. He often used parables to emphasize how to live and also to sneakily explain who he was. And in this passage that we're going to chat about today, both of those things happen. The key to take away is that Christ fulfills his promise and expects us to live out our love as we serve one another and value his authority. So I'm going to give you some instructions, and they're just going to be verbal instructions, and I want you to try and follow them as I'm saying them. So, lift both arms above your head and bend your elbows so that your forearms are behind your head, but not resting. Gently grasp your right elbow with your left hand. Allow your right hand to drop towards the middle of your shoulder blades. Feel the stretch on the outside of your upper right arm. Gently pull your right elbow toward your left shoulder to deepen the stretch. I wonder how easy that was to listen to the words and do the actions. And I wonder if it would be easier if we did it together. So you would have the words and the actual actions to kind of follow through with. So should we try it together? So lift both arms above your head and bend your elbows so that your forearms are behind your head, but not resting. So they're not like chilling. Gently grasp your right elbow with your left hand. Allow your right hand to drop towards the middle of your shoulder blades. Feel the stretch on the outside of your upper right arm. Gently pull your right elbow towards your left shoulder to deepen the stretch. Oh, feel it. Oh, great. Now, that wasn't just to get us in a little bit of yoga mood, but I wonder if following kind of the action as well was easier or made you kind of, feel like you were doing the right thing rather than just the words. It's important to show how to do something with more than just a verbal explanation sometimes. That's why maybe if you've ever watched YouTube tutorials or things like that, there is a person actually doing them, because we know how difficult it can be to just verbally kind of follow something through, but to actually see it in action is really important. In this passage, Jesus had just come into Jerusalem triumphantly on Palm Sunday. So kind of like jumping around. But the people in charge of the temple were a little nervous and angry with him and tried to confuse him into saying something offensive. So they were trying to catch him out, basically. And when he entered the temple, the chief priest and the elders of the people came up to him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority?" In this opening, the leaders try to force Jesus into saying something that they could deem criminal. If he said that his authority or power came from God, which it did, the leaders could have gotten him into trouble for claiming to be God, even though, of course, he was. They thought they could trap him with such a question, asking him to prove who he really and truly was, and challenging him to prove his credentials, I guess. However, he turned things around and stumped them with a riddle-like question of his own. So Jesus answered them, I also will ask you one question, and if you tell me the answer, then I also will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, from where did it come? From heaven or from man? And they discussed it among themselves, saying, If we say from heaven, he will say to us, Why then did you not believe him? But if we say from man, we are afraid of the crowd, for they all hold that John was a prophet. So they answered Jesus, We don't know. And he said to them, Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. See, Jesus answered the question with a question. The inquiry he posed was even more tricky and confusing than the one the priest had given him. In fact, it stumped them. They realized they were stuck because they couldn't articulate or determine where authority came from, and they didn't want to admit that they were without power or mistaken somehow. So, well, they gave up, recognizing their trick had backfired. Now, then Jesus followed up this with another story, and this is the parable. What do you think? A man had 2 sons, and he went to the first and said, Son, go and work in the vineyard today. And he answered, I will not. But afterwards he changed his mind and went. And he went to the other son and said the same. And he answered, I go, sir, but did not go. Jesus was reminding people that making promises is a much different action than actually carrying out your words. Saying you'll act a certain way without following through is like talking about joining a professional sports league when you've never played a game. You see, the Pharisees did a lot of talking about righteous living, but they missed the mark. They ultimately missed the Messiah, Jesus himself. Jesus continues, which of the 2 did the will of his Father? They said, the first. Jesus said to them, Truly I say to you, the tax collectors and the prostitutes go into the kingdom of God before you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him. But the tax collectors and the prostitutes believed him. And even when you saw it, you did not afterwards change your mind and believe him. It's interesting how Jesus kind of uses that parable to illustrate or to really hammer his point in. I wonder, have you ever talked about something and been confused when it came time to actually doing it? Have you ever said that you really want to do something, or you're going to do it this and way, and when it's actually come to doing it, you're a bit like, oh, I'm a bit confused on what I was going to do. And I wonder, when is it hard to keep promises or obey? I wonder when it's hard or to keep promises, I guess, or obey. I think it's really important to note that while living out our words is important, the story isn't just about us. It's about Jesus. Jesus was the 3rd son of this parable. He made promises and followed through on them. We know what he does. We know that he does what he says. We know that because he died for us, and we can always trust his promises and live by his example and love. So I want you to maybe reflect a little today on our actions, following through on words, promises, Do our actions speak louder than words? That's a really good question. And remembering that kind of Jesus keeps those promises. There are not empty promises. They're not just words from Jesus. He always follows through. And to help us reflect, I've actually found a piece of music that I really love, and I hope that you'll love it too. And it's about just how much we are loved by God, and it's just a really chilled song. So in your reflection time, if you'd love to listen to it, that's great. And it's called How He Loves Us. And there's a little link to the version that I like below. But I'm sure if you just Google How He Loves Us, the song will come up and you can choose a version that maybe best suits you. So I hope that you have a really happy Sunday or whatever day of the week you're watching this on. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay happy, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon. Okay, bye guys.